Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. MrRecon here, and we have the Girls X Battle 2 video for you guys, and it is the new tier list video for September 2021. I know this took us a while to do, but things had changed. Girls had come out, skills had been adjusted for girls, abilities, whatever you want to call them, and it threw things out of whack. So we had to go back to the drawing board, but we figured it out for you guys. I know you guys have all been asking for this for a while now, but we're talking about it now. So I just want to cover some things before we start. This list is endgame only PvP, and I mean not late game, not mid or early. It's endgame where you've got a full 6 team and you're full decked out and you're facing people that have been playing for a while. Newer players, this is just kind of help to show you what your teams should be focusing on when you get to that endgame PvP, essentially. Another note, elite skills are very important on some girls, like Angelica, for instance. Holly, Sky helps out a lot too with hers with the heals. We'll get into more of that in details, but if you need the actual potential, like what elite skills to upgrade, which and how high you have to go up on those elite skills, you can either use Sal's chart, my Discord, the English Discord, French Discord, Chinese Discord. Use somewhere on that. Try not to use Facebook that much because they're not very helpful all the time. Please read the notes. I'm going to say this probably multiple times in this video, but please read the notes before you do anything. Skim over the notes, and then look at your chart over here on the right. So notes are very important. I cannot stress that enough. Please read the notes. I know on this video we're cutting the notes off, but there should be links in the Discord. There'll probably be images of this posting around Facebook or any Discord. They'll have the image of this posted in there. You'll be able to find it and save it to your phone or to your desktop or your computer, whatever you have it. Just save the image to that to make it easy access. Right now, the meta is wide open, guys. Different teams can do different things. There's not one team that's on top of everybody else, so just remember that as you're going. There's not just, I can plug a couple girls in and it automatically works. You gotta kind of have to play around because one team could beat another team could beat another team, you know, stuff like that. And just also a reminder that all core is a big play in teams fighting. So if you are losing to somebody and you both have the same team, you don't understand why you're losing, you know, you have good setup, their all core could be higher than yours, and that's just giving them extra buffs more than you have, and that's why you're probably losing on that aspect. But not all the time, but just be aware that is a thing. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start off with tier 0. We'll work our way down to tier 2, and let's get into it right now, ladies and gentlemen. Let's start the tier list video. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we got the tier list here. We're going to start doing this. Okay, so we're going to start from left to the right. We're going to start tier 0. Tier 0 is meta defining girls, pretty much an automatic pickup for any team. If you're wondering, if you see Holly's name there, it says Dumpster Fire. That is a little name we used to call her. She's good, obviously not a Dumpster Fire, but she was. When she came out, she was the most expensive girl in the game, and she was the worst girl in the game, essentially. So I dubbed her the Dumpster Fire and stuck with her, and I'm going to keep calling her that to the end of time because she thoroughly deserved that name and earned that name, and I will continue to call her that. Now, the other list, that's floating around, won't have that on their list. I will post this in my Discord, and so you can either have the list without Dumpster Fire on it or the list with Dumpster Fire, and it's up to you. It's just a little thing that I added for it to show how much she really was bad. But she did get reworked, and essentially her Parasite mark will reduce attack and reduce heals up to 50%. They can stack up to 3 times, so that's pretty huge. You can reduce attack by 45% on a girl, which can be great in a burst meta format, being able to reduce the attack of the team, let's say the Angelicas or the Cassie, or some people using Von Helsing, stuff like that, trying to reduce their burst damage right away. Parasite, well, if a girl has a Parasite mark on them and they attack Holly, Holly will heal because of her natural order state. Natural order state starts at the beginning of the battle, so you can't passively lock it out with the Teresa mark of Bolinas right away. The only way to lock her out is if after 4 rounds, she is locked out, and as the natural order comes off of her, if she is passives are locked out when that happens, she cannot apply it, so she won't heal herself, right? So that is the only way to stop that. It is very hard to do, very extremely RNG based, so that makes her very good at staying alive. Now, the key point that Holly is big here on tier 0 is because she makes it to all girls that do random attacks target her automatically. So that means like things like the Galaxy mark on Vivian will always target Holly. Your girls don't have to worry about your girls dying from Galaxy marks. She will also heal through Galaxy marks now, which is crazy. Any girl that's dazed from an Angelica on the enemy team will automatically target Holly. Any girl like, say, Apate's basic attack is random. It will automatically attack a Holly, so you don't have to worry about your girls getting reduced in energy. She does so much good stuff right there as far as making girls that do random attacks that can really impact your team that they're from hitting you automatically hit the Holly. So essentially what she is she's reducing heals and attack, and she's a huge tank that heals herself, that soaks up a shitload of damage and prevents your girls from being affected by lots of stuff. Anything that's random, essentially, that's getting applied to your girls will get applied to Holly instead. That's her whole job. So if she dies in the process, that's what she's there for. Don't worry about that. All right. Next up is Angelica. Angelica, she's going to be your big burst damage girl right now in the meta. 2 is better than 1, obviously, but 1's still really good. We've seen it played out in fights before. You're going to want to build her with speed, essentially, because if an enemy Apate is faster and that Apate gets the resonant marks off and it hits your Angelica is going to be iffy 50-50. So it's better to just do Fake Crystal build with some sort of speed. You're going to have to plug and play and see which one's better for you, attack or HP, essentially, and go from there. You can use Chainblade Axe, but that's going to be with an energy feed team, and you're going to need pink antiques. Well, they just came out, so that's what that's there for. I know that's going to be hard for some people to do, but you can use Chainblade Axe, but you're usually going to use that with an energy feed team, essentially. Of course, next up we have Apate. Apate, people are saying that she's bad. She's not. She's not bad. It's people that are not incorrectly building her, essentially. So the biggest thing that's affecting Apate right now is Angelica's days. It does a random attack, and if people have Holly on the team, that random attack will then hit the Holly and not any other girl, even with an active attack. So you're trying to build her to where that she's not one of your girls' days on your team. That means plugging and playing on the HP, on all your girls, making it to work. And it's best to just do energy feed at the beginning, give the 4 marks off, and do it that way. She's still extremely effective. It's just how you use her and if you use her correctly or not. And I still use her on my team. There's some times when I don't use her, depending on who I'm facing. But for the majority of the time, I'm using Apates with Angelicas. She's really good speed. She's not going to outspeed the Angelicas, unfortunately. But every other girl, it's good to help stop them. Of course, alt course playing the part is that as well. But Apate is extremely, extremely good at energy manipulation and keeping girls from doing actives and stuff. All right, now we're going to move on to tier 0.5. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, now we have tier 0.5. There's only one girl here, but this is a very important girl. So in this meta dominant area, girls in this tier can perform well in almost any team, regardless of synergy. So they can synergize with any team, essentially, that you have for what she does. So for the rest of this video, girls like her, I'm going to call them enablers, and they enable girls to do things they normally don't do, okay? So for Cassie instance, an example is she enables Angelica to do insane amounts of damage. Angelica all by herself can do lots of damage, but with Cassie, she could do damage, a lot more damage, and quicker at it too, more quickly in the rounds. So what Cassie does is at the start of the battle, for the first 3 rounds, she boosts crit damage and speed. After the 3 rounds, it'll drop off. But as well, at the end of each round, she will increase the attack and crit chance of girls, and that lasts for 2 rounds, but it happens every time. So you can have up to almost 3 stacks, I believe, on girls of that. So she's boosting attack and the crit chance of girls happening, which is great. So within those first 3 rounds, that's huge boosts, right? So the whole point in Cassie is to make her to be able to boost the other girl's damages. She enables everybody to do more and be faster, essentially. And also, the effects that she does, because she's an assassin, she will also boost, she will double those boosts on assassins. So that's even greater. That kind of helps out with some other girls. But assassins, unfortunately, right now are not the top of the meta, but maybe one day they will be. She also does decent damage, and on her active, she will also heal herself. So she's a good secondary damage dealer. Like my team, I use Angelica's mostly. But then I have Cassie, and she also helps get girls set up to get killed by Angelica's, or she finishes girls off. So she's still good in damage-wise. So she's very, very important. She's great at damage dealing, not the best, and she's probably the best support girl we have in the game right now. The best enabler, I should say. All right. So next up, we're going to go tier 1. I know there's a lot of girls in there. We'll start breaking those down, and let's get to it. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Now we have tier 1. These are extremely strong girls. These girls can perform exceptionally well in almost any team, right? We're going to start off, obviously, with Sky and one with Teresa. So, first off, Sky. What does she do? She has the ability to heal. She has the ability to slow girls down and to boost the speed of your girls drastically. She's essentially what we nickname her as a race car, right? So at the start of the round, she increases, or start of the battle, I should say, all of your girls' speed by 80. This will fall off if she dies. If she dies, you will no longer get that speed boost, right? But she does have a caveat on her. Whenever she goes under 50%, she then reduces her damage by 85%. Pair that up with a Ranger class set, pink set 3 with added protection. She can literally take no damage from most all girls. Just 0 damage. So she can just be a huge tank. Probably one of the best tanks in the game, just like Holly. Which is kind of weird how she's set up, though. But the main point of her is boosting the speed and reducing the speed. So when she does her Noxian marks, it will reduce the speed up to 50 on one girl. It can stack up to 5 times. So that's a speed reduction of 250, which can be huge in a speed meta, which is currently in a speed burst meta. This is huge. She can reduce that and make it to where girls go first. The potential to kill theirs first so that you win the battle. She also, whenever those girls die and they have Noxian marks on them, if you have the elite skills all the way up, they can heal for 10% of max HP on a girl. So if you have 5 Noxian marks on there, that's a lot of heals on one girl. It only targets one girl, but that's still a lot of heals that one girl on your team will receive. Maybe if she's at low health, you kill a girl that has Noxian marks, let's say 5 on her, then it heals the other girl all the way up, which is really great. So she's great at reducing speed, increasing speed, doing some heals, which is situational, and being a tank at the same time. That's what she does, okay? All right, Von Helsing got some great buffs. She got some added extra hunter's marks and the ability to heal herself 2 more. So she has the ability to sustain to stay alive some well, and the ability to deal more damage. Now, she's probably the second best damage dealer we have in PvP right now, but she's a little bit slower than Angelica to create that amount of damage as of right now. Maybe in the future we might have a girl that she works with that helps push Angelica out and makes her the go-to, but as of right now, she's probably the second, maybe third on damage-wise. Cassie kind of would rival her a little bit on the damage-wise, but Angelica can do some... I'm sorry, Von Helsing can do a crazy amount of damage by herself. It just takes longer for her to get to that point. Angelica, you can do sane amounts within 2 rounds. Von Helsing might take her 5 rounds. That's the only downfall we have of her. So just be aware of that. Great damage dealer. You want to build her with speed, make her fast, being able to sustain damage, and be able to keep replicating. When a girl dies, though, she gets an extra buff. It's the feast mode. That will boost some other attributes on her and make her better even more, but that takes some time. It's not like right away, like I said. She's kind of slow. But still, overall, great girl to have. Next up, we have Izanami. Izanami has a very interesting play in this. You can use her to help stop burst damage. She can also help her with her healing curse. We know girls that do insane amounts of heals apply those and reverse the heals. Case in point, this is an example real quick. I was facing someone, they had an Angelica on their team. They were about half health. They healed back up, but they had a healing curse. So all that heals that they just did to that Angelica put them back at half health, which actually helped me kill the girl the next turn, which was a huge turn of events for when I was doing that fight, which helped me win. So she can help play into that and help you win. She also has Preset, which has Cure, which is arguably probably one of the best class set abilities in the game currently. So having her on your team with the ability to block burst damage and be able to heal at the end of each turn 2 girls at 15% max HP. Of course, that's pink 3 sets. Usually what you're trying to go for is pink 3 sets. That is huge in this meta. You can make her slower if you want. That's fine. To make her go last. That way, the shields don't get affected by your girls that much on that turn, and they go into the next turn. But that's up to you how you want to play it. Just plug and play on that. Next up, we have a Vivian. Vivian has obviously fallen down the list, but she's still useful. She still has her active, which still does lots of heals. Probably one of the best healers in the game currently still. She also has the ability, because she's a priest, to have priest class at Cure on her, which is great too, paired with her about healings. She also still has the removing of debuffs, removing of buffs on some girls, reduction of speed, stuff like that with her. The only problem with her now is that the Galaxy Mark will apply to Holly. So if they don't have a Holly, though, she's great to still finishing girls off, right? And healing with all that. But if there's a Holly on their team, she kind of drops off. That's why she's dropped a lot, because Holly is extremely great at countering Vivian. So she just kind of fell down the list. As far as running double Vivians, I don't know about that. Still one Vivian, still good on a team. But it all depends on your cluster or your server cluster, however you're fighting. So just be aware of that. But overall, she's still a great girl. She just fell down a little bit because of the new girls and implications that have been happening in the game of girls getting buffed and abilities getting tweaked and stuff like that. Also, her Galaxy Mark won't go through LB5 shields anymore, which is a big play too. If it could still go through LB5 shields, she'd still be a great, amazing girl just for that fact, because that's a huge advantage just ignoring that shield. Next up, we have Nephilim. She has gone up and down. People have been arguing that she's bad now, whatnot. I've still seen people using her. You can still use her. She's not obviously the best optimal girl anymore, but her ability to use heal debuffs, her basic attack is insane, doing 20% maximum HP. It's a HP percent damage, which ignores damage reduction, which a lot of girls have. It doesn't ignore damage depletion, but it's still a huge factor. The ability for her to be a tank. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. The ability for her to be a tank as well, with adding Eternal Dawn, giving her damage depletion on top of the mage set for added protection, and her normal damage reduction on her makes her really hard to get rid of on the fights. She usually lasts the longest on your team, and her end of round passive trigger for doing damage. And the damage that she does is not based on her attack. It's based off how much attack the enemy has. So if the enemy girls have lots of attack on them, let's say they get buffs from Cassie, and their attack's really high, and your Neffs triggers at the end of round, she's going to do a lot of damage because their attack is really, really high. Okay? So, just because the meta is shifting away from a tanky meta and she's not that viable as much as other girls, doesn't mean she's bad. She just becomes a girl that you need to plug and play and see how it works. And it's not as a situational, I shouldn't say that. There's other girls down on the list that are more situational girls, but she can still bring a lot to the table. Depending on if something's happening, you can think, well, how can I stop this? They're healing a lot. Oh, I can add an F. No one's really running Vivians, so the debuffs are going to usually stay on the girls. So, and it's not a random. It applies to all the girls. So it's not like it's just going to hit Holly. It'll apply to all the enemy girls, which is great. Lastly, in Tier 1, we have Teresa. Now, Teresa is in this weird place. She doesn't perform as we thought she would, but that's because Holly's obviously out, and she does random attack. It will tag her to Holly, and a lot of it's burst damage, so you can burst her below that 30% to make her heal back up again. Because once she gets to that 30%, she uses her little stacks, card stack, whatever you want to call them. I forgot the name of them. But the stack on her to heal herself back up again. It usually takes 2. If you upgrade them to elite skills, it just takes 1. But the point is that she heals back up to 100%, and then she swaps the HP with somebody else, right? It's not really a heal, but it's an HP swap, but it's a heal at the same time. She's swapping from a girl that has high HP and heals herself back up and gives her her low HP, right? Setting up the other girl to die quicker, essentially. But the problem is that you could have Angelica do 12 million right off the bat on Teresa, automatically proc the LB5 shields, and let's say she's at 2 million that the swap will trigger, but then they give you like 4 million and it puts her to 1, so the swap, it just went past it quickly. It's not going to trigger. So, all right. Next up, we're going to have Tier 1.5 girls. Let's get into that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, now we have Tier 1.5. These girls are very strong, but they need to be placed in a team correctly for them to work, so they need to be able to synergize well. Essentially, they're girls that need synergy more than anything. Phyrexia, starting off with her, she has 2 things. She has her Dark Star Mark and her Blood Prism, right? So the Blood Prism is going to remove certain attributes like armor, damage reduction, damage depletion, dodge up to 100%, and block, right? It will reduce those to literally 0, nothing. Now, if a girl had 110% block, dodge, the dodge would be at 10%, but we don't have a girl that's 100% dodge, so it's just always going to remove all the dodge. Usually this is only going to affect Apate and Phyrexia because Phyrexia and Apate are the only ones that have dodge currently in the game. But essentially, Phyrexia with the Dark Star Mark, apply it to the girls. When they take damage, it will detonate at the end of the round. It's damage from active skills or basic skills, I should say. It's not from passives or DOT damage, essentially. So it's just active or basic attacks on the skills on those. It'll add up over time, over the course of the round. At the end of the round, then the Dark Star Mark will detonate, which does extra damage. So see the potential of like overtime damage with that, or you could call passive damage, and her damage from her normal attack, and then be able to remove buffs from girls. That way, they can die quicker, essentially. This can be huge on, let's say, Holly or Sky or an Apate, versus the Apate can't dodge anymore, stuff like that. So she essentially strips people and setting them up. She's an enabler with some damage, I guess you should say. Not as good as Cassie or Sky, but she's still an enabler, just in a different way. It's just more like attribute reductions, certain specific ones, reducing girl stuff. All right, next up we have Kratos. Kratos obviously has fallen down. She used to be really good. She still has the ability to terrorize, which keeps girls from doing basic attacks. She also has her barrier, which creates it to where she gets a higher damage reduction over time when she puts terrorizer marks on to help her stay alive. But her damage is just a lot slower. And with Apate and Angelica and other things in the meta like Holly reducing attack, Cassie boosting the other team's attack against you and you're using Kratos, she's just kind of too slow. She's too clunky. She can survive still really well, but it's just not really a big thing. Plus, a lot of energy is being used in this first turn. Terrorizer mark's not really helpful because people already have full energy, so it doesn't matter if you terrorize them or not. They're still going to get their active off the next turn or that turn, however it plays out, however you build Kratos. So she's very underwhelming. Yes, in a right team, and if she goes off, she goes off. She has the potential to finish girls on a 35% HP because that's a part of her active skill. It's huge, but it's not as effective as, let's say, a Cassie or a Von Helsing or an Angelica for damage. Even a Pate can do decent damage depending on how you set her up. So she's fallen down the category, but in a right team, if you need that extra damage, you don't have anybody else to use, Kratos can be your girl, essentially. All right, next up we have Psychic. Oh, Psychic. She's kind of just always been here. She just kind of fluctuates up and down on the tier list, but the main thing we're going to talk about is her stuns. You can get it with Elite Skills 5 up to 100% stun chance, which is great. It's huge for keeping the other girls locked out. Now, of course, if Angelica has it in her active mode where she's charging up her bow, right, you can't stun her. So you're not going to be able to prevent that round one when they just charge up. Unfortunately, it's not going to help. Psychic also is a priest, so she has the ability to heal with Cure, and on other her attacks, she can heal as well. Her active will create weakness recognition. Not weakness, essentially it's kind of like it's a weakness mark. It's not a mark, it's a debuff. So it makes it to where girls take 50% more damage on the enemy team if they're hit with this mark. Or it's debuff, I should say. It's not a mark. There's difference between debuff and mark, obviously. But she hits the girls, they get the debuff on them for giving them extra 50% damage. Pretty self-explanatory. It doesn't reduce anything, it just creates the ability for them to take extra damage, I guess you should say. They take extra damage. But that's what she does. She just stuns, gives extra damage, reduces attack, and heals, essentially. That's her big caveat on her. And the fact that she's a priest and she has Cure set, which is the best the class in the game, being able to heal at the end of round for 50% for 2 girls that are the lowest HP. All right, next up we have Blair. Blair is there because she's on this tier list because Vivian has kind of fallen off, right? The big problem was Blair could do lots of damage and kill herself. Plus, she has low HP. She can kill herself. But if you have, like, let's say, a Blair and a Cassie, Blair is an assassin. Cassie will help boost the damage. That's great. Obviously, it's not the best because Cassie is literally low on health. She's not that fast. But in a right team and a right setup, and you're able to keep her alive, I should say, over time, she can do lots of damage. Like, lots and lots of damage. More than a Cassie. Almost on par with Angelica. Not as fast as Angelica, but she can do it. She's kind of like Von Helsing, but she has a problem with surviving, right? She can do just as much damage as Von Helsing, but Von Helsing has a better ability to survive because it has more HP and her healing ability. Now, Blair does have the ability to heal herself, but because her health pool is so low, she can die a lot quicker, which is the problem. Now, if we can be able to keep her the attack the same as high and have her with higher health, yes, we can probably use her more often. But as of right now, she needs to be synergized extremely well for it to work, but she can. Plus, she has the ability to, because she adds poison or bleed to girls for DOT. As you're stacking those up, the end of round triggers on girls for those DOT damage can help finish them off as well. So that's a good caveat. She also has the ability, as I said earlier, to heal herself. That's off her moon mark, I believe. She marks a girl with a moon ability, and it's swear that she hits the girl to take some damage, and then which she does, I believe, as an active. She has the ability to heal herself all the way up from the damage. She usually does a lot of damage, so it's 100% of the damage dealt. So usually when she's doing the damage, because her health pool is so low, she's healing herself all the way up. So, but then again, her health's so low that she dies so quickly. That's the big issue with her. Last up, we have Mika. Mika's a really good girl for her first LB5, stuff like that. But as far as endgame PvP, she's kind of fallen down because there's better tanks in the game we have, essentially. She doesn't provide as much damage as we need for her to do. She does have taunt, which taunt, what it does is that it makes it to wherever girls have something that will target a girl or damage-wise, the taunt will have it target the Mika. So like Neff's end around passive trigger of doing damage to girls. If the Neff is taunted, it will only hit the Mika. Mika makes with girls that are taunt only hit her, essentially, which is great. But the problem is the taunt percentage is so low, and the fact that you have to run an F1, but there's better girls in F1 like Holly that are far superior, or Teresa does better. Hell, you can put a Sky in F1 and does really good too because of her damage, of her triggering at under 50% the damage depletion of up to 85%, which is above the cap of 70, which is huge. It makes her amazing to survive. You can watch many fights of it. She literally would just tank everything and not take any damage, which is insane. But so that's the problem with Mika. She just a good girl at the wrong time, essentially. She just wasn't be able to use because of what we have now. So, unfortunately. All right, that's it for tier 1.5. We're getting to the last tier, guys, and that'll be it. Alrighty, last but not least, we've come to the end of this tier list video. We're at tier 2 now. These are strong girls, but they're reliant on good team synergy to perform at their very best. Higher tier options tend to fill the role better. So this essentially is if you don't have any girls on this list and you're kind of like obviously a new account and you, let's say you have some tier 1, maybe tier 0.5 girl and tier 1.5, but you don't have anything else. You got these tier 2 girls and you're contemplating whether I should use them or not. Plug and play and test with them. If they don't work, no big deal. Obviously, some of these girls might have uses for other modes, so don't have to necessarily get rid of them. But you can push them to the side and be like, maybe I'll start something else and try and get another girl that will help out. But if that's all you have to use, though, you got to use what you got to use, right? All right, so we'll start with Estel. Estel, you might see, well, she wasn't that good earlier. The main point is that she was affected by galaxy marks, right? Because she could do a lot of damage at one time on one attack, like a basic or an active. Yes, let's say Angelica does a lot of damage, right? Because of she hits it once and pings. But you can see an Estel do on a basic attack like 53 million. It's huge. Obviously, because she can only do it one time. Unlike Angelica's, she can hit the pings and then hit proc shields and then ping through it, right? Estel's just one time, but that's still lots of damage. That can be potential like huge influence of proccing LB5 shields and then the next turn killing them essentially. So to get to that point. But she's just a big damage girl. She's huge. She just does lots of damage. Obviously, she works off of skill effects, DOT, and marks. If the girls have them on there, she gets extra boost to her attack. And every single one adds up. So the more debuffs you have on a girl, the more damage she does, right? She has the ability to replicate onto other girls, DOT marks onto other girls. That way they can be pushed onto the other girls. That way she can have more DOTs to work with next round. She also, at least skill 5, on the very last passive, has the ability to remove debuffs on her at the end of round. It's a slow percentage. It's kind of like baptism, but it's a percentage-wise. It's like 50% chance, but that's at least skill 5. So that's up there on that. All right, next up we have Viera. She's kind of like if you have nothing else to use, really. She does have her shrink, make girls shrink to take more damage and to create damage, and they do less damage to your girls. And she has their lullaby shields to help heal your girls and deal some damage back to girls, but it's not enough. It doesn't really do as much damage back or heal your girls as much as, let's say, Von Helsing does damage to a girl and has it. The most of the damage is going to get through, right? It's nothing like Sky's shield, essentially, but Sky only applies to herself, I should say. You want to make her slow? She swaps speeds. That way she can take the speed of the fastest girl. But she's too slow in the meta, essentially, because you can just have fights last 3 or 4 turns and it's done, and she's not really going to do that much. So she's just not as effective. But if that's what you have to use, because she is Priest and she has Cure, which is Priest is the best class set in the game, yeah, Cure is huge on that aspect, right? So if you need a healer and you don't have anything else, you can go with Viera because she is a Priest, essentially. Next up, we have Raph. Technically, she can do the most amount of heals. She's not the best healer in the game, but she does the most amount of heals. Well, as of right now, she's not as effective, but maybe in the future, with the amount of heals she does, she can be effective. Now, she also will increase attack and speed for your girls on her active, which is huge. On her basic attack, she will also heal, essentially. And that she has a passive where she can increase the heal amount on herself to increase heals. So it's like when she dies on her death trigger, she has 330%, I think, elite skill 5 to heal your girls, right? And then plus the extra heal amount. So she can do even more heals because of that. But you have to have elite skills up on her. So essentially, because she's very squishy, because you have to build her with a lot of attack on her, and that she really doesn't provide much other than heals and some attack, but that's with an active. And because there's some still energy manipulation with Vivians and Apates, and she's very slow, you might not get that active off to get that, and you're basically only getting heals out of her, which you need extra attribute boosts on your team, which is the better way to go. So she's not as effective. Now let's say Vivian and Apate weren't in the meta at all. Might be a better choice, but as of right now, it's not as great. And of course, she's a priest, so Cure is the way to go on the priest set for class Pink 3, because that is arguably, I'm going to keep saying this over and over again, it's the best in the game. Next up, we have Jonah. Jonah does random attacks on her active, even though you can put the elite skill 5 up to where it only hits one girl. But because it's a random attack, if a enemy girl has Holly, you would essentially, if that Jonah has a parasite marker on her, you will heal that Holly up every single time all the way to full health. I guarantee you, I've seen it so many times. That's a big reason why she's just fallen off. Yeah, she got a big nice rework. She does help. She reduces speed and block on her pings from follow-up attacks on girls doing attacks, stuff like that. She's great on damage-wise, but the fact that we have a Holly in the meta just hoses her so hard. Kind of like Fenrir did, but a lot worse in a sense. Plus, she's not really good with burst damage because she needs to wind up her attack a little bit, having girls do a bunch of attacks to get her remnant marks on her, remnant stacks, I should say, to get more damage, right? That's how she gets the amount of pings she gets. Angelica, she just automatically gets them at the end of round. Just gets added up over time, right? Jonah's, she uses them, they go away, then she's got to rebuild all the way. Angelica's not like that. This is why she's not up higher on the tier list. It's just because she's very underwhelming right now. Maybe in the future, as the meta shifts, right, from a little bit less of a burst meta, she might become more useful, right? But as of right now. And I should also add that she does heal herself when girls die. That's not the problem. The main problem is that she's healing Hollies and she's not targeting other girls to finish them off. And she's just not doing enough damage quickly enough, essentially. All right. So next up we have Uriel, the last girl we're going to cover today. Uriel does lock out passives. But the problem is you need multiple Uriels for it to work. So you can do shenanigans. But because of a burst meta, and case in point, most people are going to be trying for Angelicas. Angelica cannot be CC'd when she's in charging up her bow. So when you can do that before Uriel gets an attack, Uriel won't be able to do anything against her. And then Angelica the next turn, when she releases her active, just does crap loads of damage, and there's nothing you really do about it because the mark of bleedness won't trigger. Now after that, maybe if your Uriel survived, let's say you have 3, it might work, but it's not consistent. So she's just very underwhelming right now, and she's not as effective. So unfortunately, there's not much to really say much more than that on her. She's just something that's just disappointing in the end. Now, this could change in the future, obviously. Nothing is set in stone, guys. So Uriel might become better in the future depending on how the meta shifts. Maybe some other girl will make Uriel even better. Yeah, Uriel did get a buff a while back, but it's still not enough. But maybe something will come along that makes her even better, and it will make her the top tier, one of the top girls used. Probably not likely. I'm going to go ahead and say this now. But there's always that what if. We don't know what Carol Games is going to do. We're just going to have to wait and see. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's all I got for you guys today. That's it. This is the tier list for you guys. The new one, September 2021, right? Remember to read the notes. Please read the notes. I forgot to say it in the video, but I was too excited talking about the girls. I forgot to say it, but I'm going to say it in the end of the video. Please read the notes. Leave a comment down below. Tell me what you think about how your girls, how your team's working, stuff like that. I want to hear it. And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. It is free to help subscribe to the channel, to help grow the channel. That way more people that are playing the game can find this channel, right, on YouTube. That way we can help them, especially some of these tier list videos. These are obviously the most viewed videos because people really use them to help build their teams. And I can't stress enough, if you need help overall, please use a Discord, whether it's my Discord, the English Discord, the French Discord, the Chinese Discord, whichever language you speak and you want to use one of them, use it. Of course, there will be a link down below to my Discord, and that is it. That's all I got for you guys today. And as I always end each video every day, stay safe out there in this crazy world. I'll see you in the next video. Peace out, ladies and gentlemen.